Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. Today I'm coming to you live from Terrytown, Dave. It's nice to see you.
I'm coming to you live from New Jersey. All right. Yes, lots of things happening this week. And by lots, we mean a few mixed things.
Enough.
Yeah. This is the lull before the Olympic storm that is going to happen between both summer and winter. We're about to enter into a very intense period of our lives. And I think it's very exciting for Gymnastics fans because we are about to be on a roller coaster of epic proportions. So if you are new here, please subscribe below and smash that like button because literally, Jonathan, if you think about it, we are about to go from the Olympics, gymnastics, diving, gymnastics.
Synchronized swimming and handball, which is my new favorite. It looks like dancing. Just saying, try it out.
But you have Arena Wiener bringing you the eteri energy, right?
It's triggering for me, that Arena Wiener energy.
Oh, it's any different than skating, please.
Yeah,
please.
Exactly.
Okay.
But we haven't seen as much of the skating coaches acting the way we watched Arena in that one documentary. I am still traumatized by it.
You don't skate in New Jersey.
It's true. It's true. That's why I don't
There
know.
were skating mothers at the show I was in last night being like, I am going to send this video to Nina Petrenko. I am going to send this video to Nina. When that is the punishment, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God, the mothers were saying that to their kids?
Yes. Fabulous.
And then we wonder where the artistry is, why it's lacking. It's why the inspiration is missing.
Scott Manley is a genius because we don't even look at the parents. You know, we don't look at the parents who sent their kids to the ranch and being like, you knew what about the girlies and you sent them there? No.
Exactly.
Because have you ever met like a skating parent that hasn't become like completely just in their aggressive driven people? You get on this ride. I mean, there is a story to tell.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you and Jenny were talking about it on the See Alive, but you're like, the minute you know it means more to the parent. You
Jenny,
are
who made her skate 7 days a week when she broke her hip. Yes, that one. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Okay.
Alysa Liu, who Alyssa's improving, so he's trying to get her into the cricket club, allegedly. I mean, yes, all right, this is happening, all right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Dave, like I was ready for some Peggy Fleming Trophy this week. Like I enjoyed like watching a complete event, even though it's a peculiar event and we'll get into it. Just sort of like sitting down and watching a start to finish event was really nice. And it made me really excited about the Olympics actually, because again, you know, I'm on the outskirts of knowledge in things like gymnastics and stuff like that, but I'm really excited to sort of like buckle up and take that journey throughout the entire.
Nervous that we didn't see Jason.
Say it again.
Nervous that we didn't see Jason.
Oh, well, I'm more nervous about that interview that we read from him.
You should be nervous about both.
Yeah.
Because this is Jason's event, right? Jason is an artist. He's the component skater. This is for Jason and Karen Chen to really start getting people like appreciating them. This is made for them. And it kind of carries them. Jason's done some really interesting programs here. People talk about them and it kind of carries some positive momentum for these skaters into the season because they're likely not the ones that are going to be debuting a triple axel, Karen, or a quad lutz, right? So this kind of builds their narrative and their experience and gets them going for the Olympics. And him not being here, he said he tweaked his foot. He's not really been on the ice for a couple weeks. So my worry for Jason, I'm not worried about him making the Olympics, but my worry is that he was making progress at the end of last season. Like we saw, he was making progress at the end of 2020, where he was really starting to actually put the quads into the program. They weren't necessarily fully rotated. We saw some better ones in practice, but he's like trying to get over that hump and he's getting older and older. And you know that, I mean, a sarcastic coach is gonna be like, he's never gonna do it, right? And at this point, he was making progress, but you have to build on it. And it's like another injury for Jason to move forward in the season. And it's like, okay, he's gonna be at the same spot he was at last year. We're gonna go into the Grand Prix. The quad's not going to be there. He's going to go, and then you're going to start getting the body of work. I don't think the other U.S. men are there to push him out right now. We didn't see Yarrow here; he withdrew too. So, but I think
so let's talk about this, Dave. If you were getting ready for an Olympic season, And you're like, Jason, you're really like working new elements, or maybe you're Jarl, like when you when you debut, you're gonna have to make a big bang if you're making a run for this team. I wonder of the placement of this event, like I was happy to see Alysa Liu and Karen, who used like sort of a recycled program situation, but like, I wonder if you feel you have time to do now like an entirely new program with different jumping passes, or if you would feel like it would take away from the momentum and the plan you were on.
We were supposed to see an extended, like revamped version of his Sinnerman program from last year. It was supposed to be amazing, but then it wound up that I think he and Joaquin had worked on when he was home after the World Championships. For him now, he just has to get back to where, you know, like his base, right? Because I think for Jason, it's really important to go out and do well. Yes, we want to see the quad, but if he puts the quad in and fails, it's not good for him. He needs to secure his body of work. The way Jason really secures his body of work going into the season, medaling at a Grand Prix, doing it right, that's going to be a really big deal for him. And in the individual Grand Prix, not in the Grand Prix final, we have seen Jason medal before because he's able to put out a consistent program. And a lot of times the guys who do a lot of quads lose points on spins, lose points on steps, they fall, and someone like Jason maybe behind, you know, technically, but they wound up doing well. I think those days and the way that the system may be running out, but for him right now, he needs to try to get that score up as high as he can in the short program, which he's going to do by doing a clean short and not doing the quad.
Right.
Maybe doing the quad in the free, but it's probably not going to be ready, at least for the first Grand Prix, I would think. So,
yeah.
As far as Karen, this is interesting. So, I mean, as far as, let's back up. Jason, the Russian press trying to trap him. Whoever
and Dave, you like were mentioning to me the one question where, I mean, if you want to frame it, go ahead. But like they basically asked him, are you taught in the USA that the USA beat Germany in World War II? And somehow in a reference to his like program, to Schindler's List. And I was like, whoa, what? First of all,
the Russian press tries to trap Americans and they try to make it dumb, and you're going to wind up on Sports Are You, and they're going to pull it out as they did. This was the pull quote for him on Sports Are You. This was the headline, which is obviously they're like scoffing at because they are obviously taught that Russia won the war. The UK is taught that the UK was the key factor.
But we were always taught the Allied team defeat.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
we're not the Allied, but it has a pro-USA bent to it.
Yeah.
I think unless you take the higher level history classes, that winds up not being.
okay.
I think in lower level. And Jason
But also, what does this have to do with Jason?
Jason is way smarter than a lot of the other skaters who would have watched that question.
Yeah.
Jason knew what they were getting at. He knew they were trying to trap him. And he said, well, it's the perception of where you're from who won that war. A lot of other athletes, average Americans, would have totally botched that question or said something really offensive.
But this was already later when they couldn't trap him under the Black Lives Matter movement. Because they were like, well, you support it, don't you? And he was like, yes. And they're like, so are you part of violent, horrible protests that are, and I was like, whoa, what is going on here? Like,
ask all those things.
Yeah, they were after him as if somehow because he said he supported Black Lives Matter, that he was a part of the protests in Chicago.
Because you know why, and they know why they did the interview. Jason, when he came out of the closet, it was the top story for a week on Sports Are You that Jason and the other skaters came out of the closet, because you know that's not kosher in Russia,
right?
That they're coming out of the closet and they're like, it's about a month and this thing, and the way they even word it when they're describing what pansexual is in Russia,
right?
This is why when Alex Sarashev says that he doesn't like butterfly lovers, I'm like, okay, that's a two. Okay. Right. And everyone's acting all offended, but you have to realize like that culture and where they're from and what people write in the press, and it's very different, but then they act very shocked. Okay. Right. It was total like tantalizing. Like you would have thought someone came out in 1950 in America, right?
Right.
The way, but Jason coming out and all the things that you couldn't said about him on TV and all of that stuff. So I give him a lot of props for giving that interview, and I think he did a really great job.
He was quite artful, and I wonder if he knew going in so he could prepare accordingly. These are not questions they ask other people.
They wanted to trap him on Black Lives Matter because they think that's Russia has a different perspective on that. Okay.
Right.
And the whole thing, and he answered it really well.
And even answering word for word, they were like, Yagudin said this, Yagudin said that. What do you say to that? And it's like they're trying to like create, and even listen on a
you
much.
Imagine that you're going on like Fox News on steroids.
Right.
If you're going to give a interview to the Russian press, where you are going to have to like.
As a now out athlete who supported Black Lives Matter,
You're
and
like,
American.
You are going to like pockets of like deep south, but with like aggressive, we are the best energy in another way, right? And you to answer that question.
And I felt he was very artful in pumping Medvedeva when they were talking about her, like he did the good work. And I'm sure he does like her. He seems to be, I'm sure he would be a lovely energy in the rink, no matter who you are. But like
when he was there, yeah,
he did really the good work and saying some really positive things. Even, in a really small version, when they contacted me and did like this interview, and they bait you, and then you just don't take that bait because you're like, well, no, that's not what I said. And so then they never publish it.
Yeah, I always mind, and then they, they can write what they want.
Yeah, and do. So, yeah. So there you are.
You see right here, they were trying to trap him on that.
Right. Terrible.
They also want to say things like in Sports Are You, the headline has been about how Diana Davis got a Grand Prix. They really want to build the story and have another coach say something about Diana getting there, because those reporters know the same thing that we know about, like, maybe she didn't have the resume to get a Grand Prix, but they're waiting for someone to actually say it.
It reminds me of producers on Your Real Housewives.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to like set up the angle so then they can blow up the story. Yeah.
Yes, this year on the Real Housewives, they have the Republican women of the Upper West Side, and they brought in an African-American woman who wants to teach them about the Harlem Renaissance. And they're just like waiting.
Yeah.
They had nothing else.
Just to add water. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It does feel like when Sports Are You does these, it's very similar to that kind of a situation. I mean, they want someone to dare to say something about Diana not deserving that Grand Prix.
Right.
And so far, no one has, but it's been like left up. I mean, they're building that narrative there.
Right.
They know what they're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the fans that will read this will be like, that's awful. You admit it's terrible. That's not true. It's above the fold. Check it every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're a skating fan and you don't go to Sports Are You every morning, like you check the New York Times, and you don't have Sports Are You and the plugin on your Google Chrome to just.
Now, I have to ask, like, I mean, I don't really, we've even gotten, we've gotten a lot of backlash even for this show. And it's, in general, I think because it's a sport that's not covered as popularly, like I'm wondering, when you turn on ESPN and they just have roundtable discussions of people just chatting about every sport and every coach and every athlete, do you find it as salacious in other sports, or is it something specific to sort of this like skating gymnastics world that gets a little more personal that way than it might in something like football or basketball? Or do you think that actually just exists there? I just don't follow it as closely to know.
There's a nuance in it because the sport is judged that people.
Yeah.
And the difference is you can call LeBron a choker and he can go out and score 40 points. You're like, shut up. Right?
Right.
But you're not saying LeBron's not artistic.
Right.
And when you're saying someone's not artistic or someone's not technical, it's like you're taking half of them through the abdomen and slicing them.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, because you're in a judged sport. And it's almost like, okay, so if you're saying that someone doesn't have the technical goods, it's almost like you're taking away their testosterone and you're going, right?
Wow.
But you're saying that you're not artistic. You're basically calling them a basic, simple person.
And it is personal. Like I've always felt this even in music. If you don't like a pianist's sound, okay, one thing. If you don't like someone's voice, it is so personal because that's their voice. You know what I mean? It like just cuts that extra deep. Like to say someone's not artistic, I mean, it's basically to say you are not offering value.
It's like saying like you're a boring person.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like almost judging. It's almost like the technical and artistic is like judging the two halves of a person, which isn't really true, but it seems like a total summation of someone as a human being.
Right.
Right. And it's really not.
Which we know is not. We know people, for instance, like
seems like the two sides are like the two sides of life, right? And that's what it comes down to. And it's very challenging. It's very hard to like walk away from that. So
it's our own version of Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal. Yes. Okay.
You know, as a kid, I got very upset if I watched something with Jim Henson and like Miss Piggy wasn't in it. I was like, there are no Muppets. Are you kidding me?
For Piggy, yeah. Amazing.
Anyway, let's talk about it. So we touched on a couple of things. You know, this Peggy Fleming Trophy. Karen Chen, very smart not to do that triple. She did that 3-jump combo. It's gorgeous.
It really was. It really was. And it allowed me to enjoy it as a viewer instead of be nervous.
I think she should bring back on Golden Pond.
It is really a stunning program.
And
the spins, it's when she changes.
It's Karen at her best. Yeah,
right?
It's Karen at her very best.
I think so too.
Although I have to say, I liked the program she did last year, but it's not Olympic, right? So this program brings out that higher level of nuance that Karen has. It showed us and reminded us that we haven't seen her in a couple of months since the Worlds. It reminded me why Karen's so special.
Yes.
Because, you know, we're at the point in the training season where we've seen Amber Glenn train triple axels. We know Gracie's training hard, but not really doing, you know, it well in competition yet. We know that Lindsay Thorngren is going out and doing all these jumps. We know that Isabeau is going out and doing all these things. We know that Brady Tennell is going to be consistent. Mariah Bell has some music that she likes this year. She's coming to the table. We haven't really thought about Karen.
Yeah.
Not much, because we haven't seen her, right? She's not one of the skaters that's like in your face on Instagram as much. Right?
And just by far the classiest program we've seen in a really long time from a US lady. Like there's just an inherent, it looks expensive.
Yeah.
Her skating looks expensive in this program.
She did exactly what she needed to do.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think like, why do I love her spins so much? And as she increases speed with each like change of position and like each thing is exactly with the music. This was one of those, which sometimes I like and sometimes it throws me when they lay the music audio over the video. It's nice because you can hear the audio a little bit better at times, but there is some sort of like disconnect. But like her timing with the music, she feels that music, she hears that music, she responds like every, I don't know, it's lovely. And to me, Danny G, that's how you do a bookend. To start and end with that pose, like that, I felt like I went on a journey in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, it's gorgeous. Showed the skating skills, she showed the quality, she showed the interpretation, the jumps that she did, great. She is building up her argument for body of work, right?
Yeah.
You know, apparently Brady has had some minor injuries, not jumping as much for the summer, so they're ready for the season. Karen is building up, you know, nationals, worlds.
Well, seems to be mad, but that's okay. Yeah.
Like this. You're going forward. You have to think that a US lady is probably not going to medal on the Grand Prix this year.
Right.
It's highly unlikely. If a lady does medal on the Grand Prix, depending on which fields, it could get them onto the Olympics potentially, but are very close. But if you're looking at 4th or 5th, I think Karen could be 4th or 5th with, you know, her components and artistry, clean.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people will try to put in the content, compete with the Russians and fail.
Right.
But did you see Eteri's picture of them finishing in Novogorsk? I mean, she has 6 contenders. We can say it
again. We went through it in the Grand Prix preview. Like, with the exception of maybe a rogue Japanese medal here and there in the ladies, like they are taking every single one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone. whatever just happened in Novogorsk, probably mind-blowing.
Yes, we don't even know yet. Yeah.
So, one hand, respect, but if you're someone else, you have to like expect it, right? You have to go in knowing what your game plan is, and I think Karen's smart to know, like, all right, probably not going to win a Grand Prix medal. It's not going to blow my ego. I need to hold steady, skate well.
Right. Right.
There are other coaches that are going to try to be aggressive. How many times do we hear Tom Z, like, you have to compete with the Russians, you have to do this, you have to do that. Like, Karen Chen, she can make it to the Olympics and get into the short or free program in the team event. She's an Olympic medalist.
Yeah.
Right. So for her, just get onto the team, compete team event, Olympic medalist.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a huge thing for your life, for your career, for everything she's been through, you know. I remember she was once the hotshot junior on the Junior Grand Prix, or especially in the US, supposed to be winning everything. She had it got derailed all along the way. But like, for her, that would be so huge. I think for, even like Mariah Bell, I think making the Olympics would be huge. Yeah. Right. So for some of these people. Now let's talk about Alysa Liu. This is
I'm really curious because like where you're gonna come from this. So I'm trying to decide, do I want to tell you what I think first? I think I do.
First, and I'll go.
I loved it. Okay. And I had a feeling, are you crossing my name off a list?
Writing down notes.
I
write down notes as we talk. So
he has the receipts. First of all, who doesn't love the Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto? I think it should be used in skating much more than it is. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I found her opening moves, like, to me, she's been working with the right people. And is she inherently now as free and as fluid and amazing as some of our other favorites? No, but to me, on her trajectory, she moves so much more elegantly than she was before. She moved, I thought, faster. I thought she had tremendous, like the opening moves, like when we talk about, for instance, Lindsay taking very seriously the idea of like finishing poses and, trying to put on those finishing touches. I saw that in Alysa, but completed times 1,000. I sense that she's working with people who really know how to move. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of these moments of like the lean back or a casual arm to the side was finished beyond belief. Now there's the issue of sort of like maybe a jump rotation at the end of like a sequence or something like that. But like in general, if the goal was to move more elegantly and appear more artistic than she has in the past, I thought she achieved it tremendously.
So yeah, I'll tell you where I am with Alysa and the whole situation going on. I think that Jeremy and Massimo did really good work with her.
Yeah, I felt it was a really good endorsement for what they can do too. I mean, obviously Alysa had to enact it, but I think it's clear they took this job very seriously and got some results.
Her glide is better. Mm-hmm. I think the choreography was good. She does things that are so much more refined. She still has a habit that she's done forever when she skates. And it's just one thing that I noticed. It's like nails on a chalkboard. And it's the kind of thing that she'll eventually cut out. There are times that Alysa generates speed. And she goes forward like this and bends at the waist.
Okay.
That to me is when she looks like an intermediate or a novice. When she, this, right? Because she's so athletic and she like tries to rip the edge when she's doing footwork.
Okay.
It's just like a minor thing that she does. That's like, I always notice it in every program when she's doing it. And I'm sure that they work with her on it because they've made a lot of improvements elsewhere in her glide and her skating. It's just a habit that she's had her entire career for coming up. You see, it's like, like you're casting a spell and then you see someone do something and you're like, ah, okay.
That takes you out. Yeah, yeah.
They're trying to get her to jump more with her legs and less with the pre-rotation that she's had. So they've spent, and that she's had a hip injury. So they've been spending a lot of time trying to manage Arthur's expectations and keep her healthy, do these jumps, do the, improve the technique, improve the glide, and come back to the bigger jumps later so that they have the stable base to do it. Now, we really haven't ever seen someone really correct long-standing career technique of a habit that isn't gonna pass. Like, think about it. It's not really been done.
Right.
Changing the technique that's so ingrained by this.
The only time I ever remember people really talking about it was when Mao sort of like switched teams in between 2010 and 2014, but it was one of those things where that was the narrative put forward. She's changing the technique, she's changing the technique. And then at the end of the day, to my eye, which has never done a triple axel, I didn't see these tremendous changes that they were discussing. But it did look to me like, for instance, with Alysa, that they were a little leggier.
They're trying to get her to use the edge more rather than, okay, because Alysa before went at a slower speed and she cranked the body, right? So they're trying to use the edge more to get her up in the air. And I think that you can see it on some of the jumps that there is. There's clips of her on Twitter in Sun Valley. She's doing her triple triples. She struggles with the rotation on the triple triples, but they're working on them. But you don't see her doing as many of the triple axels or the quads.
Right.
So let's say, but I think that this is important because I think that in a couple of years, people will look back at Alysa, at those national titles that she won, and be like, did they just go, one, were those jumps clean? Two, was the rotation, was the technique appropriate? And were the marks appropriate for how they judged them? And did they put down other skaters and like artificially boost up her components?
Right.
Based on buzz, based on political pull, based on, there's been a lot of buzz about her for a long time. And did she need to win those? And was it good that they handed them to her? Or were they trying to artificially create a star? And was it good for her career trajectory? Because without the triple triples, without the ultra C elements, without the triple axel and the quads, where is Alysa for you in the mix?
Well, that's the thing. You start to look at her differently. And I was realizing this. I was like, why am I considering her more of a contender right now? And it's based on not the skating. If I saw like another like junior turned senior who did the exact same thing, would I be actually considering her as a spot for the Olympic team? I don't know.
Out factor. She does have a performance factor and an energy that she puts out that other skaters do. She does light up.
Yeah.
But where is she for you? Where do you rank her?
I'm going to have to see the technical content she goes for, because between a Brady, Mariah, Amber, Karen, and Alysa, like you said, Karen is the one with the momentum.
She's like fourth or fifth for me. She's in the conversation, but we don't have to send her.
The thing is, there's so many questions. I don't think they'll send her if she doesn't produce. Like, I don't think it's going to be one of those cases where they'll send her if they can. I think like, because Mariah is such a question mark for me and Amber is such a question mark for me. I see right now Brady probably doing enough. So I see Brady and Karen going.
I'm not giving her the title at this point, right? Unless things change, right? I could see her sneaking in with consistency for bronze at nationals, right? And start getting the third spot, but not the first spot. Like, I think those days.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
So then you start to look at it like very differently, right? So you're like, okay, Brady's put in a consistent number of years. If Brady is healthy enough, rotating enough, she's gonna go.
Yes, I think so. Right? I see. It would take something extraordinary for her not to go.
Karen?
Same. I see something extraordinary would have to happen in order for her to not go.
Mariah Bell, a trained consistent, but if Mariah Bell performs a good long program and a good enough short, then it becomes Mariah Bell or Alysa. And who are you going to send?
I think Amber has a lot to prove. I think Amber has the biggest.
A lot to prove, because the thing is that without the last season and a half, or at least the Worlds and the last season, the body of work argument makes it so that one, this season counts a lot. And there's a lot of like up for debate with certain skaters. And I would say especially with Amber and a little bit with Mariah Bell, them not doing Worlds or World Team Trophy, that could be used against them if you want to put other skaters on a team.
Yeah.
The body of work.
Well, I think really what it boils down to is going to be people's gut reaction, and they'll use whatever they need to justify it.
Kind of a lot. They're going to say body of work, but if they want nationals to kind of a lot, because
I think the Grand Prix will tell all the tales.
What if something crazy happens at nationals?
I think then they'll look to the Grand Prix. I think the Grand Prix will count the most in this year because there's so many arguments about a COVID season, and there's so many arguments about, well, why did you keep Amber off the team, or like all this sort of stuff. We
hear rumors about if Arthur's trying to call coaches for Alysa to go. Do you think he's going to let Massimo and Jeremy be the ones to sit in the kiss and cry with Alysa when it comes to the Grand Prix and the international season to take her there?
Because he's worried about political pull, or he actually thinks the information.
Remember, he wanted Frank Carroll to be in the kiss and cry with her at nationals when her coach Laura was there the first
right. It's like as a seal of approval or something.
Because it's how it looks, right? Remember when Gracie went to him, and it just like it's the beautiful package, and you have the right coach and the right choreographer. I remember Mariah, one of the things used against her was that she didn't have a coach because she was training with coaches in Japan before she came here. So like, well, she doesn't really have a coach.
Right.
It all is part of the package you present, right? And it's all part of the narrative and how people view you.
Right.
Think of the Phil Hirsch article if she's with Brian Orser. Oh, I was texting with Brian Orser, and he said Alyssa's glide is improving so much every day with those edge classes with Tracy Wilson, even though Jeremy and Massimo worked on her edge for months.
That's the thing.
Right?
At one point, Frank had to sit in the kiss and cry with Linda in 1976. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, I think this could be a big moment for Massimo and Jeremy to be sitting in that. That's important. Yeah.
If you think that what we knew about the Liu situation, is he going to be the one to take that risk on the new coach?
Yeah.
To be the team advisor.
Because it seems like, I mean, Massimo's worked with almost every Japanese skater at some point, I feel like, creating programs, and he's been over with there. So I know he's got a lot of, and obviously Jeremy is such a favorite in Japan. I know that a lot of probably Asian coaches and judges and officials and all that sort of stuff already admire their work. I don't know that Brian Orser does more for them there. We know he's such a divisive figure in Russia.
The political pull of it all, even when you have, think about it, Phil Hirsch was texting Brian about Yuzu, even though everyone knows that Ghislaine is really Yuzu's coach, and he hasn't even been coaching him. But Brian said the right comments to Phil Hirsch to keep Yuzu happy, and even though everyone knows that he's not really the main coach.
Right.
It's all part of the game. Okay.
If something's working, and in my opinion, it looks like this is working.
So do you think someone like Brian should take Alysa?
No.
Well, who does Brian have next season? And who does he really have this season?
Yeah.
They'll go to the Olympics with Jason. They'll go with Yuzu, even though he's coaching himself.
Yeah. Well, he stood to almost have a lot of people with Boyan and Rika and all these people.
Oh, yeah, he's coaching over Zoom, but Rika, is she there yet? She's not, right?
Yeah.
Who do you have at the grid? Because your cricket club, they haven't had that many homegrown champions like Javi, Yuzu. Yeah. I mean, he's one of the great manager coaches.
Finishers.
Finisher. He has improved these skaters. You cannot say that he did not help and polish and improve every single one. But they have not had the homegrown kids. I mean, he hasn't been coaching for that long in his career. Now he's starting to. We're seeing people. But do you bring in someone like Alysa? But do they want to be blamed if she doesn't make the Olympics?
Well, that's the thing.
But if she's in the mix and they can work with her and help her, and does she have another season or two where she could be near the top? At least.
I guess it just seems like Massimo and Jeremy are working well for her.
Yeah,
so
but skating top. This is skating. This is like
I know, and that's what really gets it
fact.
wrong, in my opinion. So if she's happy and she's improving, and the jumps are leggier, and the movement is more refined, why?
Her father allegedly had designer children. Do you think he's going to take a risk on Massimo and Jeremy?
You know what? I think it's so much chicer to have like the really fancy new coaches.
Unless they decide to go the LGBT route and have that be their political pull going in.
I mean, again, if it's true, if you're really viewing it like a product, they're helping her get the best product she's had.
They are,
So
but she doesn't medal on the Grand Prix. And Russia starts.
it wouldn't with Brian either.
Wait. But when she doesn't medal on the Grand Prix, and you see that Sports RU article that said, because, Averbuch already said that Alysa Liu was supposed to be the only one that could challenge Russia, and he doesn't think that there's anything to worry about there. He gave that interview the other week. I'm sure her father knew about it, right? They already dismissed her as like a contender. And like she was once on the Junior Grand Prix podium. Look at her now. When they rip that apart, and you know that those international politics are coming at you.
Yeah.
Are you going to panic?
Right.
In an Olympic year, with all that pressure, she was a Sports Illustrated girl. They've been on this trajectory the whole time that it seemed like it was happening until it didn't. It's a ton of pressure.
And this is
you're going to be like, yeah, let's stick with these new coaches who we're not
who are improving the skating, but as we know, like actually we care about that. But the only reason Russia ever considered her a factor was never. They didn't care that she couldn't skate. They just were worried that she could rotate. And now,
think about it. If Orser says we have a plan and we're sticking to it, does that mean more to a parent just for their own ability to sleep at night without with all the pressure that these parents are under the next months? Do you sleep better if Brian Orser is telling this to you, or if Massimo is telling this to you?
Yeah.
And when Russia goes, Alysa Liu has an ice dance coach, how's that working out for her?
Yeah.
Because that will be thrown at her too.
Yeah. Well, Eteri is also, I mean, just saying.
How many titles does Eteri have?
Well, less than, as a coach, you mean.
As a coach, how many titles?
Yeah. But she had to start somewhere. You did the whole trajectory of how
I agree with you. But I'm saying how parents act and how this gets played out.
Yeah. Yeah. But then it becomes that point, like, it's fascinating.
And who's going to advocate for Alysa in that before the judges go in that room and the people on the committee, right, are in that room to vote on who makes the international committee to vote on who gets to go to the Olympics? Who's going to get in their ear? How many long-standing relationships you have with Lori Parker and this one who's voting? Like, who, that these are also important things you have to. This is how it gets played.
Yeah. And it's so sad because I think
the fact that Peter Kane has been on like Olympic judging panels could help Ashley make the Olympics. Absolutely. Do you think like Jessica and Brian, let's say that they show up at nationals, they're back in, they're competing. Are they going to be
Dave? I meant to bring that up because they were showing them in all of the sort of like fluff, like montage pieces.
Yeah, still see nothing. And we still hear nothing about that situation.
Right.
And we're supposed to just like sit back and like pretend like we didn't see them get taken off of the list. And,
but then we know how political it all is, and it's just so sad how little of it has to do with the actual training of the skating. Because, and we even go back to this when we were talking to like Jenny and stuff about who the hell sent you to Richard Callahan. But these people that are so removed from what the actual training is just saw like Tara and Todd. So then they were sending everyone to Richard Callahan without knowing whether or not he had technique to offer anyone, let alone a healthy environment.
Everyone is guilty of it in skating because of the pressure.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure, right?
Yeah.
And you have to be making chess moves that are the right ones. And I think there's no like, not many people get to play this game more than once. Right.
Right.
So
But although I have to say, at the Peggy Fleming Trophy, it was also nice to see Isabeau one more time, who I do think is still so beautiful to watch, even though the jumps frighten me. And
oh my God, it on her, it made her look faster. You know?
And Randy, or Rusty, whatever the hell his name, oh, God, the worst. He was like hosting it, and then like all these like horrible things. I mean, it's not totally his fault. It's USFS's fault for like thinking that this is something anyone wants to see. He also kept calling her Isabeau.
Is it Isabeau or Isabeau? Because I hear
it should be Isabeau. It shouldn't be Isabeau.
Well, we do both. So
one of them is wrong.
One of them is wrong, but she needs to say her.
Isabeau. It's Isabeau.
But we do hear, I mean, I hear it at the rink. That little Isabeau, right? And you don't know if someone's just being cute or
yeah, it's not right. That's incorrect. Even if she says Isabeau, she's pronouncing it wrong.
She has little nuances in her skating that I really like. You know, she does the little toe steps with Oksana Bayul. She has the Sasha Cohen things in there. There's a lot to like about her skating. It's just the speed and before the technique.
Yeah.
She's someone who could find herself in the mix. Because think about how she could create a moment at nationals. And it comes down to how they judge her components.
Yeah.
And if Isabeau goes in as a junior Grand Prix, let's say she gets a bronze medal surprise. Wasn't Paulina fourth at the Junior Grand Prix final? But let's just say let's say she gets a bronze, right? Junior Grand Prix final, stars align. She gets a bronze medal, skates a good short, good free at nationals. Does someone like Isabeau get to go as the rising star? They love a young person. She has enough panache. Is that a
stranger things have happened?
Yes, cute name, right? That's all part of it. Remember, Goldwyn's gold, all of that. Okay. Although I don't know if she's actually old enough to go. Actually, I think in a group she is. But
we do have a lot of people like holding on versus on the rise.
Like 99% she's not old enough to go.
Okay.
Sorry, it's gonna be crazy and everyone's gonna.
Okay.
It wasn't. Sorry, I was not thinking. I've been tired. It's been like crazy. Okay.
Exactly.
You idiots, Dave. You idiots. You don't know anything about this sport. Okay, I get it. Okay. I performed last night. I got up this morning to go to Pilates. So maybe I know what's important in the sport.
Exactly.
But I don't know Isabel's birth date, and I'm apologizing.
Okay.
And maybe that's okay. This is all right. By the way, sent a video of my skate to Galina last night. It wasn't my best, it wasn't awful. It was more experience. She didn't write that. And you know what?
She's off hours. Yeah.
No, Jonathan, that is not what that means. Jonathan.
Okay.
It's not what that means.
Okay. Like sometimes I'll get like students.
She has nothing nice to say, is what that means. Okay.
Okay. Got it.
It wasn't that bad that she's gonna call and kill.
Okay. So.
But you're gonna hear about it in person.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of a dust up the other day.
Regarding?
You know, I've been like improving a lot since I came back from nationals, and like I think some of it's confidence, some of it's just like stuff that we were working on before that we're building, you know. And we, you know, she wanted like working on new transitions and new steps and stuff like that she likes to put in. I mean, she came on the ice. I mean, when she starts standing on the ice, because you know she doesn't wear skates, right? So like, she starts standing on the ice and waving her arms during the warm up. You know it's going to be a long day.
Okay.
Right? So she gets very excited, and it's just like the intense energy. And we're doing Axel, we're doing Sal, we're running the program. She's like looking at other people. Freddie came, who's like this beautiful skater, which is like great, but at the same time, then she's going to be like, okay, what am I going to change in heaven? All right, now. And it's a 75-minute with the lesson. It's a lot up here. All right, after a long day. She goes, "You look like you're walking to a funeral ceremony." And I was like, "Galina, I'm really trying." And she's like, she starts miming herself carrying a dead body. And
you're like, feel free now to offer me an alternative way to do this.
And then I think like I pushed back with her. And then she's like, "Dave, this is why I've been divorced twice." It's like,
There it is.
It's like a non-apology apology. Okay.
Yeah, got it. I am what I am. That's funny. Okay.
And she sent me pictures of her dogs the other day, so I think we're okay.
So you're back into the graces.
Like Nina's dog, who was originally Sasha Cohen's dog, that Nina inherited with Sasha.
Okay.
Right? So it's too much going on. So like Galina watches the dog and like we'll tuck him in the guest room.
This is the Frenchie?
No, the Frenchie is Oscar. The other one's like a lab mix something, right? That's Gary or whatever. So, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I did watch this documentary you sent me, or this like the clip on making a floor routine.
Oh yes. The choreographers. You know, we've never really learned Dominic Zito's origin story, but he's like the biggest choreographer in gymnastics. There's a lot of Botox going on.
Yeah, I was gonna say the personality is as fake as the face.
And he's making the money. Okay.
And so I want to ask you some questions because you know, like
MyKayla Skinner, I told you she was the one to watch, Jonathan. She made that team. All right.
This is sometimes where
I don't think I hate her because she's a Republican. That's not true. Like,
oh, I didn't catch that from you.
I enjoy her.
Yeah.
Is like she does not have the form or execution, which she even kind of like will say, but she has this like belief in herself that's like so captivating to watch. And then her husband will write that she's robbed. She has enough self-belief. It's fascinating to me because we see, and I'm the type where I see like my own faults, right? Like I will look at my performance and like, you know, this one, I want this to be better, this to be better, this, right? Like she is like, I deserve to go. Like, you know?
Don't long for that sense of like confidence. I'm like oh my gosh.
Fascinated by.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like I am like so fascinated by her.
That's like the parents like just having pumped her up so much that like even in a field that like nitpicks you to death, she has just utmost belief in her ability.
It's incredible.
Like how do you do that?
She's a Tanya Harding type. She is chucking. She's like she's chucking those skills, and you're like, all right.
Yeah.
Tell me what your thoughts were. I mean, this.
Well, you know, this is like the anti-me. Like this whole thing I'm watching. They're like shopping music, and it's just like garbage cheerleading routine music after like another. And I was like, how are we even picking?
I loved it that he just had like 3 things that were mixed. And he's like, oh yeah, how about this one?
And I was like, none of them sparked anyone. No one lit up at any point when they heard it and were like, this is it.
Like, this is cool.
Yeah, and I was like, is that how you want to choose it? Don't you want a moment? Don't you want to like?
Did you get the vibe that her coach was like, yeah, that's cool. We have 8 hours to put this together. So like, I mean, that's the vibe that I was getting from Lisa. I was like,
well, especially when we're like picking all variations on a theme. I was like, it's not like you were providing like one classical piece and one jazz piece and one rock piece and one, you know. But here's the thing. Talk to me about the hand bend in gymnastics, because there is something like when they think they're being balletic or something, there is like an angle of the hand that is so like, it looks like they broke their hand in a way that you don't see in like ballet or a lot of dance. It's kind of like, it's not even that it's modern, it's just so angular and it seems specific to gymnastics.
It's not all gymnastics. If you watch the girls in Woga that are coached by those old Russian women, they don't look like them. And they were, when they first came up in the mid 90s, I actually had videos where someone's like, look at the hands, look at the hands.
Well, you were sending me people from like 83, 84. Yeah. And some of them were so insanely beautiful with the way they moved their arms. I was like, oh, now this makes sense to me. But this has become so cheerleading looking.
What is Dominic's origin story? Was he a gymnast? Was he a cheerleader? Like, what's his background? Was he classically trained? Like, you don't know anything about his background. Like, you can't find.
I'm going to guess he's not from a ballet company. That's just a stab I'm going to take.
And like, who do you think that Skinner's coach is from a ballet background? I don't think so. All right.
Yeah.
There's even one point when she goes, can you imagine how cool my routine would be if I were flexible? And her coach is like, well, then you couldn't do the tumbling. Life's a trade-off. And I was thinking, she's not wrong.
That's the level of art we're after. Yeah, okay.
That's the level of art we're after. And that shows you how much she cares. But she's not wrong. Okay?
Right.
I was like, all right. She's just like, move along.
Yeah.
Also, like, you've got 6 months left of your career. Shut up. All right. Well, you're not gonna fix that now. All right. Like,
okay. Yeah, in general, it just, and again, they don't even use the music while they're creating it. And it's just like a series of combos and you're just like, oh. Like I would have hoped that they were like, what's the layout? Show me like the kind of tumbling you moves you want to do. Show me where the order you would like to do them in. How much time do you need these things? And let's find music that can like aid in making those moments even better.
So the thing is that when they moved to the open-ended code of points, where they got rid of the 10 in gymnastics, it became all about the tumbling. Okay. And that's the one thing that when it first happened, it didn't seem like it as much, and it was gradual. But once Simone happened, and there are also like advancements in how they train floor, and they're using these rod floors and these other things that they're using to keep them healthier, train the big skills. They just went all in on the tumbling. That's how you get a girl like Jade Carey, who made the Olympics, who has zero presentation, but went all in on the tumbling, and she got the points.
Yeah.
Right? And until they change it, and now it's such that we're like, yeah, but we want artistry. And like, how do you even quantify it? Is that the leaps that they do? Because my mom was watching the trials, and she doesn't like these sports. She's like, I watch them too much, oh my God, whatever. But she's like, all they do is tumble and jump up in the air, and tumble, jump up in the air. And she's like,
but what's the alternative? I would rather them actually, honestly, just do some tumbling and like in diving, I don't need them to dance up to the thing.
Because they don't have like a components mark, right? They don't know how to quantify it. They only know how to deduct for a lack of, and it hasn't been effective.
Okay.
What is effective is when you throw at a girl doing a triple double and then doing a double layout and double this, like that, but they have completely lost the art. And then you get into a thing where the body types have now shifted, because the girls who handle the big tumbling are built in different ways than the gymnasts who used to be good at the dance and could do some twisting and some, tumbling around and be more well-rounded, but their bodies have changed.
Yeah.
The conditioning to allow them to do it and stay in one piece has changed, right? Like, and it's like so far, like it has gone so far off the cliff, and people do make comments, but now you can't go back, because now if you're to try to be like, well, let's try to fix that, you're going to be saying that you're body shaming, that you're not being inclusive of different body types,
and that you're taking away the athleticism. I mean, it's the same conversation at skating. You're going to like walk back. Yeah.
And they're like, wait, but what has actually happened before? That's why I think other countries cannot wait for a month from now when Simone retires, and then they have the World Championships, and they have a couple Russian girls who are, more, they can do some of the big tumbling passes, but they have some more of the lines, and they have some more of like a little bit of choreography, not much, because they're trying to do these big tumbling passes to compete. There may be a little bit of like stuff that's shifted around, and maybe, because the US is like, yes, they may win the Olympics, but there's going to be a Worlds in October where they're going to have a new batch of girls with not a lot of experience. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
I know you're not watching Golden yet, but you've got to watch it on Peacock, because there's a parents, and there's a story about this girl, Connor McLean, and there are two things that people were talking about that are like shocking that happened in episode 5. One is that there's a biracial girl who left, and it seems like it was because her coach was like perhaps anti-Black Lives Matter and talking about Trump and talking about, which is actually like a very normal conversation that a lot of these either skating coaches or gymnasts who are in small businesses, like a real conversation that people were having, be it when things were shut down and they're worried how they're going to put, like that impacts them in a different way. We'll talk about this on See Alive, about like why the coach would be talking about things and what's appropriate and what's not. And, these are young kids. But then there's that issue. You move to, they go and they're justifying why they're sending her to Valeria Liuka. And the parents are like justifying it. And it becomes like every parent who supported Delilah until they were against Delilah, or every parent who sent their kid to Callahan until they're anti-Callahan, right? And you're like, well, what did you know about this before this time? And it's mind-blowing. The dad is like, well, if she needs to lose 5 pounds, she's going to lose 5 pounds. I have no problem with Larry. Seemed like a nice guy. And you're like, all right, okay. Let's check back in 6 months. Let's check back in a year. See how this
Save this for the therapy appointment so we can just play it. Yeah.
Gotta watch. I mean, it told you everything about these parents that we were talking to.
Yeah.
What role do they play when they send it in?
Yeah.
There are a lot of gymnasts that don't say publicly that don't like Ali Raisman because she doesn't talk about her own coaches when she talks about USAG, but she gives a pass to her own coaches. And there are people that have a difference of opinion on if her coach is one of the good ones or who's, you know, like people are always like, well, who's the good coach and who's the bad coach? And it's like a nuanced field. And there are people within the sport that are like, how come she never talks about her coaches? And what do we know about them? And that's conversation. So,
Yikes.
yeah. Gracie Gold competed at Wilmington last week.
Oh, was there video? I didn't see it.
Video. It was like, but she is going to skate in Philadelphia. She didn't do that well, but she went out there. But she was skating really well. Then she went to Lombiel for a couple of weeks. She came back, wasn't as consistent, but it's been getting better. But I think she went out a little too early, but put herself out there. So her big event, like she has to do well in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's getting to the point where like she has got to, if she's gonna, but she did her East Eden short program that Jeremy choreographed for her. It's apparently a very nice program. So it's go time. But did you watch Yuma Kagiyama's short program?
Oh my gosh, no, I didn't. There was the one video I forgot to watch, Dave.
It's very lovely. He is when you're
I bet it is because he's so lovely. Damn it.
You're gonna okay. I'm gonna tell you what you're gonna hate the Michael Bublé because you have ears.
Well, no, he's not. Here's what it is. He's like just non-offensive. He's just there. He's fine.
My mom went to this show last night and she was like, why did that one guy wear like an undone bow tie? What was that about? And I was like, Mom, he was skating to like take 5. That's what they do in skating. It's like after the party, loosening it up. Party look that everyone. Yeah. Mom was like, what is that?
It's like the late night jazz show. Like now they can unbutton.
He's like wearing the tie with the jacket, of course, because we're doing. You're right. Like it's just so stereotypical. But he's lovely. I think it gives him some presentation. It gives him a little more razzmatazz, which again, I think it breaks him out of his shell a little bit more. Is it wow? No.
Does it need to be?
It moves him closer to where he needs to go in terms of performance.
Yeah.
It brings him a little bit more to the audience. And I think everything else is where he. No, yeah. Wakaba, she did have a really bad skate the first night. The second night, she was perfect.
Oh, amazing. That's the thing. I forget they do so many iterations of that show also. This is not a one and done.
They don't do the thing where they do the reskates after, like they always did on TV here for years and years and years.
Whose book was it when they were talking about like having to film like 100 things? So like, I don't remember if it was Katerina or who could get the triple toe or something. It
was Kristen Brennan's book that was like so shady. Why?
Yeah. They're like, they were there all night. Yeah. But I'm excited for Yuma because I mean, again, I think this is a real contender to watch. So, and I'm excited to hear that Wakaba then did another clean iteration because again, she's got a lot to prove. And I hope that she does. So
Statico's jumps making me nervous still. But
I'm afraid the book is closed on that. I think they won't find it difficult to give it to Wakaba if she stays consistent.
Yeah, but I think there are some sleepers in Japan who could become contenders. I think we're about to hear such an exciting period, Jonathan, like because we're going to the Olympics, gymnastics, which is like not your cup of tea, but
no, but always enjoyable. Always enjoyable.
August 3-4 junior Russian test skates. We've got these summer events. Right after is Cranberry. Then we've got Junior Grand Prix happening. Then we've got.
And we're in it.
We're in it.
Yeah.
Okay? It's like Christmas for like, I don't know, 6 months. Okay. Oh, to be alive. Yeah. And then we crash like no other because like everything is so exciting. And then we're gonna come in like April and be like, oh.
Yeah, this is gonna be one of those like 5-year-long feelings.
We're gonna message you like, well, don't you care about the Russian juniors? They're gonna be like,
I have so many names of people like just like circling in my head. Like I need a
How many
break.
messages do you get about like who's standing closest to eteri in the group photo? Do you get those messages from fans?
I get some very intriguing messages to watch this, or have you heard about this? And I was like, half the time I'm like, oh, whoa, what? What are you talking about? Yeah. Some people are really on it. Some people are really, it's giving them
People make me very nervous because they tag me and stuff. And then I'm like, if I don't, well, I like some of what you're saying, but not all of it. And I don't want to qualify with a tweet reply. Like,
no. And then I make the mistake sometimes of liking it because I like that you like engaged with me. But then you're like, I don't want that kind of verbiage. Like, yeah. It's a
there are some people that get like offended when you don't reply, and like it's just a dicey situation.
Yes, exactly. Under the assumption that they're the only people talking to.
Lots happening.
But you do a great job at replying. I've always been impressed. I get overwhelmed very easily when they like just like pile up.
I always feel guilty, so I'm like, you know, it's tough.
When do the Olympics start? Next week?
Yes, Friday is the opening ceremonies. Which I have to tell you, are you an opening ceremonies person? I'm not.
I always watch and I always regret it because it just takes so long and it's so like. I thought the weirdest one when I was watching the London ones and we were dancing around hospital beds and like the Queen came in on a plane as James Bond. I was like, okay.
Some people love it. Like Elkin, my good friend, like he loves it, loves the whole thing. But like I have to tell you, and I think I told this story before, but watching the opening, okay, so it was in China for the opening ceremonies. And when you work it, like I didn't go. And one thing is I didn't go to the rehearsal day I think I was just exhausted. And I was like, well, you could watch them rehearse it. It's like, you know what, like we were working like 14-hour days every day. So. And
it's a slow watch, that kind of rehearsal, I would think too.
We were working outside in the heat. So like when you're not used to it, you're just like drinking water, going to bed, getting up the next morning to put in another day, right? So, because I was like, oh, I'll watch it Friday night and the whole thing. And I kind of obviously regret not going, like to watch the rehearsal.
But mainly to say it, right? Like maybe not in the actual experience, but to say that you did it.
Well, here's the thing. I didn't know that China was going to have those thousands of drummers to see rehearse together. That I wish I experienced.
Yeah.
In person, the power.
Come on, that is not an Olympic ceremony. Like, that was above and beyond.
I'm thinking like, other Olympic ceremony. Do I regret not going to that? Yes. Would I regret not seeing like the maids running around in the UK? Wouldn't care.
Right. Or kids dressed as snowflakes standing in circles or something, like not particularly. Yeah.
That I'm like, you know what? Okay.
But there usually is a classical, like most people, like I remember when Pavarotti sang for Torino and Ben Heppner sang for Vancouver, like normally there is, and Anna Netrebko I think sang in Sochi, like they usually do have like a big opera person.
The Warren ballet situation, and that was gorgeous in Sochi. There were a lot of very cool things, but there were other times, but like after the drummers opened in China, there was a long stretch, and I was watching it on Chinese television with no CCTV, and I'm like, what is happening? Who's lighting this torch? I'm going to bed. Right? You're just like, I don't know.
In Sochi, you just had to wait up for the one ring that never opened. Do you remember?
Yes.
And then all of their press, Sports RU, posted the picture and they had superimposed it so it was open. Yeah. Just saying. And then my favorite meme was because remember Ashley made that like popular face in the Kiss and Cry or whatever, where she was like, and then they put her next to the picture of the ring not opening as if she was judging that ring for not opening. It was very funny.
After she did a seminar where she was teaching people razzmatazz, and you know what? There's no one better.
Right? Yeah, she has something to teach there.
All right. Well,
use it for 3 seasons. Yeah.
Lots is happening. Hold an edge and look sexy, everyone.